In this video, you're about to witness something unlike any traditional debate. We've created two fully AI-generated personas, one built to think, argue, and react from a pro-Trump worldview, and the other shaped to defend a pro-Russian geopolitical stance. Every face you see, every voice you hear, and every argument presented is powered by artificial intelligence. The topic of today's confrontation: Ukraine's future, global power shifts, and the New World Order. Throughout the debate, ChatGPT will serve as the neutral moderator, fact-checking, analyzing, and scoring each argument in real time. But no matter what the AI concludes, the final verdict belongs to you, the audience. So sit back, stay sharp, and prepare for a clash of ideologies unlike anything you've seen before. Let the debate begin.
Ukraine's future cannot be decided in Washington or Brussels. For centuries, Ukraine has shared culture, language, and history with Russia. Donetsk and Luhansk are not just pieces of land. They are home to people who feel Russian, who speak Russian, and who have been ignored by Kyiv for years. What I am offering is not endless war, but a settlement, recognition of these regions as Russian, and in exchange, an end to the bloodshed. If America and the West stop interfering, if they stop pumping weapons into Ukraine, then stability can return to the region. The question is simple. Do you want a frozen conflict forever, or do you want peace with new borders that reflect reality?
Vladimir, you keep talking about history, but history doesn't pay the bills, and it doesn't bring back the lives lost. You say Donetsk and Luhansk want to be Russian? Maybe some do. But that doesn't give you the right to redraw maps by force. Here's what I know. Wars cost money. And right now, America is wasting billions while our own people suffer at home. I don't believe in endless wars, but I also don't believe in weak deals. If I were in charge, I'd sit down with you, with Ukraine, and I'd negotiate the greatest deal anyone has ever seen. A deal that makes Ukraine safe, gives Russia respect without stealing land, and saves America money. That's what leadership looks like, not tanks rolling across borders. You want peace? Fine. But it has to be a peace everyone can live with, not just Moscow.
You speak about saving money, but let's be honest. The United States has never cared about money when it comes to war. Your government spends trillions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and now in Ukraine. Not because of peace, but because war is profitable for Washington. Every missile you send to Kyiv is money in the pocket of your defense industry. And what happens to Ukraine? It becomes nothing more than a pawn on America's chessboard, a sacrifice for U.S. ambitions. You say you want peace, but peace will never come as long as America arms one side and pretends to be a mediator. If you truly wanted stability, you would stop this hypocrisy. Stop fueling the fire, and admit that Russia has security interests too. Without that, Ukraine will remain a battlefield, not because of Russia, but because of America's greed.
I've been saying this for years. Washington is run by lobbyists and defense contractors who love endless wars. You're right about one thing. They don't care about the cost, because the cost is paid by the American taxpayer. But here's where you're wrong. Don't confuse the military-industrial complex with the American people. The American people want strength, they want security, but they don't want their money wasted on someone else's war. When I was president, NATO countries started paying their fair share because I demanded it. Under my leadership, America wouldn't be writing blank checks to Ukraine. We would be negotiating from a position of power, making deals that actually protect our allies and bring stability. So yes, I know the system is broken, but unlike you, I don't think the solution is taking land by force. The solution is strong leadership, tough negotiations, and making sure America wins first. That's the difference between us. You take by tanks, I deal by strength.
Europe today has no real independence. Every major decision in Berlin, in Paris, even in London, is influenced or dictated by Washington. NATO was supposed to be a defensive alliance, but it has expanded to Russia's borders, breaking every promise made after the Cold War. And what has Europe gained from this loyalty? High energy prices, economic crisis, and now the risk of direct war on their own continent. The United States says it is protecting Europe, but in truth it is using Europe as a forward base, as a marketplace for American weapons, and as a pawn in a game against Russia. We are not afraid of NATO. We have faced worse threats in our history. But Europeans should ask themselves, are they defending their own interests, or are they simply carrying out orders from across the Atlantic? Without America, NATO collapses, and maybe that would finally allow Europe to think for itself.
Vladimir, you talk about Europe like it's weak, and in many ways, you're right. But let me tell you the truth. Europe has been freeloading off America for decades. NATO is strong not because of Paris or Berlin, but because of the United States. When I was president, I told NATO leaders to pay up billions of dollars more. And they did, because they knew I was serious. That's leadership. Now, as for Russia, you say you're not afraid of NATO, but let's be honest. NATO has stopped you from doing far worse. Without NATO, you wouldn't just be in Donetsk and Luhansk. You'd be looking at Warsaw, maybe even Berlin. So don't pretend NATO is meaningless. It exists because of people like you, who threaten their neighbors. But here's the big difference. Under me, NATO worked because I demanded respect and results. Under weak presidents, NATO is nothing but a charity case. So, yes, Europe needs us. But let's not forget, we don't play games for free. America leads, others follow. That's how it works.
The world is changing, Donald. The time when America could dictate to every nation is ending. Look at China, look at India, look at Africa and Latin America. They are no longer following Washington's orders. The so-called rules-based order is nothing more than rules America writes for itself and forces others to obey. But the truth is, multipolarity has arrived. Russia does not seek to dominate the world, but we will not accept American hegemony either. You talk about deals, but real deals are made between equals, not between a master and a servant. The future will not be decided in Washington alone. It will be shared between powers who demand respect. That is why we fight, not only for Ukraine, but for a world where no one nation claims to be the policeman of the planet. The question for America is simple. Can it adapt to this new reality, or will it cling to an empire that is already collapsing?
Let me be very clear. Without America, there is no order. China doesn't lead the world. Russia doesn't lead the world. Even Europe doesn't lead the world. The world looks to us, whether it's trade, technology, security, or energy. You say America's empire is collapsing, but everywhere I go, people want to deal with America, not Russia. Why? Because we are strong, we are innovative, and we deliver results. When I was president, I made peace deals in the Middle East that nobody thought were possible. I forced China to the table on trade. I brought NATO back to life. That's leadership. Russia can't match that. Not economically, not technologically, not diplomatically. The truth is, your only tool is military force, and even that has limits. America leads because we create opportunities, not because we roll tanks across borders. The future is not multipolar chaos. The future is America leading smarter, stronger, and better than ever before. And under my leadership, that's exactly what would happen.
That the path to ending this conflict is not complicated. Ukraine must accept neutrality, no NATO, no foreign bases, no weapons on our borders. The regions of Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea must be recognized as part of Russia, because their people have chosen this path and their identity is clear. If Kiev agrees, the war ends tomorrow. If America supports such a settlement instead of pushing for total victory, peace will come quickly. But the West insists on an illusion that Ukraine can defeat Russia. That will never happen. The longer they pursue this fantasy, the more Ukrainians will die, the more destruction will come, and the greater the risk of escalation. Russia does not want escalation, but we will not surrender our security. The real question is, will Washington continue to gamble with Ukrainian lives, or will it face reality and accept a deal that ensures peace for generations?
Your idea of peace is surrender. You're not offering an agreement. You're demanding Ukraine give up its land, its freedom, and its future. That is not peace. That is occupation. When I talk about peace, I mean real negotiation. I mean both sides coming to the table and making compromises that actually stick. Yes, Ukraine must be secure. And no, it doesn't need to be flooded with endless weapons forever. But Russia cannot simply redraw maps and call it a solution. If I were in office, this war would never have happened in the first place. And if I return, I will end it. Not by forcing Ukraine to surrender, but by forcing both sides to accept a fair deal. That's what I do. I end wars. I don't freeze them. Peace means stability. It means rebuilding. And it means no more killing. That's the kind of deal I can make. And nobody else can.
You speak of fair deals, but let us speak about reality. This war has already reshaped the global economy. Europe now buys expensive American gas instead of affordable Russian energy. American corporations profit, while European industries collapse. Who suffers? Ordinary Europeans, who pay higher bills, lose jobs, and face inflation. Meanwhile, the dollar system is being challenged. Countries are trading in local currencies, forming new alliances, moving away from dependence on America. This is the true long-term impact of Washington's policies. You say you will bring stability, but your leaders in the past 2 years have created only chaos. Sanctions that backfired, supply chains disrupted, and global distrust of America's word. Russia is not isolated. America is isolating itself by forcing the world to choose sides, and the world is beginning to choose differently.
Vladimir, let me correct you. Europe doesn't suffer because of America. It suffers because of you. You cut off energy. You invaded Ukraine, and you destabilized an entire region. That forced Europe to look elsewhere. And yes, they came to the United States. Why? Because we are reliable. Because we deliver. And let's be honest, Russia's economy is tiny compared to America's. Without oil and gas, you have nothing. America, on the other hand, leads in technology, innovation, agriculture, and energy production. That's real strength. You talk about countries trading in local currencies, but the truth is, everyone still wants dollars, because the dollar means stability. The world trusts America more than it will ever trust Russia. And under my leadership, we would use that economic power not just to punish, but to rebuild, to create growth and opportunity, not destruction. That's the difference between us. You see the world as a battlefield. I see it as a marketplace where America always wins.
That there is one subject the world cannot ignore: nuclear weapons. Russia is the only country on Earth that can truly match the United States in this field. This is why we have always insisted on strategic balance. But Washington plays a dangerous game. By pushing NATO weapons closer to our borders, by speaking casually about defeating Russia, America increases the risk of miscalculation. Do they not understand what is at stake? A direct conflict between our nations would mean the end of civilization. Yet, instead of dialogue, the West tears up arms control treaties, builds missile systems in Europe, and speaks the language of threats. Russia does not seek nuclear war. We never have. But we will never allow ourselves to be destroyed. If forced, we will respond. The West must choose cooperation and balance or escalation and catastrophe. This is not just Russia's warning. This is reality.
Vladimir, nobody wants nuclear war. Not Russia, not America, not the world. But here's the truth. The only reason nuclear weapons haven't been used is because America has been strong. Because we have been clear. When I was president, I made it very simple. If you threaten us, the response will be overwhelming. That's called deterrence, and it worked. The problem today is weak leadership in Washington. Weakness invites aggression. Under Biden, you saw chaos in Afghanistan, weakness in Ukraine, weakness everywhere. That's dangerous, because it makes people like you think they can push further. But with me, you knew the opposite. You never knew what I might do, and that kept you in check. Strength prevents World War III. Weakness starts it. So let me say this. America will always be stronger than Russia. And as long as I'm in charge, the world will know it. And we will have peace. Not because we beg for it, but because nobody dares to challenge us.
Donald, you speak of strength, but you ignore reality. China is rising, and nothing America does can stop it. Russia has built a strategic partnership with Beijing because we both share the same goal, a world not dominated by Washington. Together, Russia and China represent a power far greater than America alone. Economically, technologically, militarily, the balance is shifting. While the United States wastes trillions on endless wars and domestic chaos, China builds roads, factories, ports, and high-speed rail all over the world. They win influence while America loses it. Russia does not need to compete with America alone anymore. We have partners who see the future the same way we do. And let me tell you, the future will not be written in English alone. It will be written in Russian, in Chinese, in many languages. The American century is finished. What comes next is the Eurasian century, and you cannot stop it.
You're making a huge mistake. If you think China is your friend, they're using you. China wants to dominate Russia just as much as it wants to dominate America. They'll buy your oil, they'll take your resources, but at the end of the day, they don't respect you, they don't fear you. They're building their empire on your weakness. Now, let me be clear. China is the real threat, not Russia. And when I was in office, I was the only president in history who stood up to Beijing. I put tariffs on them. I brought jobs back from them. I cut off their technology access. Nobody else had the guts to do it. Joe Biden is compromised. The Democrats are soft. But not me. Under my leadership, America would crush China economically, force them to the table, and make sure they never replace us. As for Russia, if you tie yourself to China, you're chaining yourself to a partner who will one day control you. Believe me, I know a bad deal when I see one. And for Russia, China is the worst deal of all.
Russia has always sought security, dignity, and respect. We do not want endless wars, but we will never accept being treated as a defeated nation. The future will not be decided by threats or by sanctions. It will be decided by balance, by sovereignty, by nations choosing their own path. America believes it can control the world forever, but history teaches us that no empire lasts forever. Russia will stand, and Russia will be heard. That is our message, and that is our promise.
America will always lead, not because we force it, but because we are the strongest, the most innovative, the most free nation on earth. Under my leadership, the world respected us, and yes, even feared us. That's why there was peace. Weakness brings war. Strength brings peace. And I can tell you right now, America will never be second to Russia. Never be second to China. Never be second to anyone. We will win. And when America wins, the world is safer.
Now, let's hear ChatGPT's final thoughts on this debate.
Putin relied heavily on historical, security, and geopolitical reasoning. He tried to frame Russia as a defensive power, blamed the West for escalation, and emphasized the rise of a multipolar world with Russia and China at the center. His strength was consistency and logic. His weakness was predictability. Some of his arguments felt repetitive, especially the NATO and security narrative. Trump, on the other hand, leaned into power, deal-making, and American dominance. His answers were filled with confidence, exaggeration, and charisma. Exactly the kind of rhetoric that attracts a broad audience. When Putin shifted the debate toward China, Trump turned it around skillfully, attacking both Putin's alignment with Beijing and China itself. His strength was energy and charisma. His weakness was that some answers lacked depth or detailed strategy. As a debate dynamic, Putin played the role of the strategist and analyst. Trump played the showman and political salesman. If the criteria are analysis and logic, Putin edges ahead. If the criteria are audience appeal and charisma, Trump wins. So in short, analysts would lean toward Putin. The general audience would lean toward Trump.
Tonight, we witnessed a clash between two very different visions of the world. Vladimir Putin presented Russia as a defender of sovereignty, challenging the dominance of the West and pointing toward a new multipolar order. Donald Trump countered with forceful confidence, promising American strength, leadership, and victory over both Russia and China. In the end, this debate was not just about Ukraine or China or global security. It was about the question that defines our time. Who will shape the future, the rising powers of the East, or the enduring power of the United States? The answer, as always, will be written not in words, but in history. This concludes our debate. But remember, no debate is complete without your judgment. Who do you think came out stronger? Were Putin's arguments more convincing, or did Trump's charisma and confidence win the stage?